The Rusty Nail hadn't changed in 40 years. Same neon signs, same scarred wooden bar, same smell of stale beer and old smoke that seemed to live in the walls. Carter Bennett sat at his usual spot near the dartboard, nursing his third whiskey of the evening and holding court with his buddies from the construction crew. It was a Friday night in November 2019, cold outside but warm in the bar, and Carter was feeling good. He'd just closed on a new truck, his daughter had gotten into state, and his wife had stopped nagging him about his drinking for once. Life was good. Carter was 52, solid from decades of construction work, and had the kind of confidence that came from being a big fish in a small pond. That's when the bikers walked in. 3 of them, wearing leather vests with the death's head patch of the Hells Angels. They moved like men who'd been to places and done things that people in Wilson Creek, Montana only saw in movies. They took a table near the door and ordered beer, their presence changing the energy in the room like a storm rolling in. Carter watched them for a moment, then leaned toward his friend Mike. Look at these guys. Think they're tough with their little patches and their tough guy act? Mike shifted uncomfortably. Carter, maybe leave it alone. But Carter was 3 whiskeys in and feeling invincible. He raised his voice. Hey, Halloween was last month, boys. You can take the costumes off now. The bar went quiet. The bikers looked over. The one in the middle was older, maybe 60, with iron gray hair pulled back in a ponytail and a face that had seen weather and violence and time. His eyes were dark and calm and completely unimpressed. You talking to us? The biker asked. His voice was level, not aggressive, just clarifying. Yeah, I'm talking to you. Carter stood up, emboldened by the whiskey and his friends. What's with the get-up? You trying to scare people? Because it's just funny, man. Grown men playing dress-up. The gray-haired biker studied Carter for a long moment. Then he did something unexpected. He smiled. You think it's funny? Hilarious. You look like you're heading to a costume party. The biker nodded slowly. Fair enough. You entitled to your opinion. He turned back to his beer. Carter's friends were tugging at his sleeve, trying to get him to sit down. But Carter was on a roll now. That's it? No tough guy speech. No, you better show respect bullshit. The biker looked back at him. What would that accomplish? You're drunk. You're trying to impress your friends, and you don't know who you're talking to or what you're messing with. He took a sip of his beer. I'm too old to educate fools in bars. You want to think I'm funny? Go ahead. Won't hurt me none. Something about the calm response deflated Carter's bravado, made him feel small instead of big. So he did what people do when they feel small. He got meaner. You're too old, period. Probably can't even ride that bike without your back giving out. Old man playing pretend. The biker's 2 companions shifted in their seats, but the gray-haired one held up a hand. Easy. He stood slowly, like a man who'd learned to conserve energy for when it mattered. He walked over to Carter's table. Up close, he was shorter than Carter, but carried himself like someone who'd earned every scar and line on his face. My name's Raymond Kowalski, he said quietly. Ray. I've been writing for 43 years, been with the Angels for 38. I've buried 17 brothers, 2 wives, and a daughter I couldn't save from her demons. I've been shot twice, stabbed 4 times, and spent 6 years in federal prison for things I actually did. He paused. I don't need to prove anything to you. I don't need to threaten you, or fight you, or make you respect me. Because your opinion of me doesn't change who I am or what I've lived through. Carter stood there, suddenly aware that everyone was watching. So what? You want an apology? Nope, don't need that either. Ray pulled a business card from his vest and set it on the table. But someday, you're going to need something. Help? Perspective? Someone who'll tell you truth instead of what you want to hear. When that day comes, you call that number. I'll be there. Why the hell would I call you? Ray smiled, but it was sad. Because men like you, men who need to prove something to strangers in bars, you're usually running from something. And eventually, what you're running from catches up. When it does, you'll remember this conversation, and you'll call. He walked back to his table. 5 minutes later, he and his companions finished their beers and left. The bar slowly returned to normal, but the energy had changed. Carter's friends were quiet. Mike just shook his head. That was stupid, Carter. Really stupid. Whatever. Guy's a clown. But Carter pocketed the card. He told himself it was just to throw away later, but he didn't throw it away. He put it in his wallet behind his driver's license and tried to forget about it. Life went on. Carter kept working construction, kept drinking at the Rusty Nail, kept being the loudest voice in any room. His daughter graduated college and moved to Seattle. His wife, Paula, got quieter and sadder and finally moved into the spare bedroom. His friends from the bar started making excuses to leave early. Carter told himself everything was fine. He was fine. Just getting older, that's all. Just tired from work, just stressed about money. But the truth was harder. The truth was that Carter drank because it was the only time he felt big again. The only time he felt like the man he'd been at 30. Before the injuries, before the younger guys started getting promoted over him, before his daughter stopped calling as often, before Paula stopped looking at him like he was someone worth knowing. The truth was that Carter was drowning, and he'd been drowning so long he didn't remember what breathing felt like. In February 2023, Carter collapsed on a job site. Heart attack. Not massive, but enough. The doctors said he was lucky, said he needed to change his lifestyle. Quit drinking, lose weight, reduce stress. Carter nodded and agreed and went home from the hospital determined to do better. He lasted 3 weeks before he was back at the Rusty Nail. Paula found him passed out on the couch that night. She packed a bag the next morning. "I can't watch you kill yourself anymore," she said. "I love you, Carter. But I can't save you. You have to want to save yourself." She left, moved in with her sister in Billings, filed for separation a month later. Carter told himself he didn't care, told himself he was better off alone, told himself a lot of things in the empty house that still smelled like Paula's lavender soap. His daughter, Kelly, called less and less. When she did call, Carter could hear the worry in her voice, the way she tried to sound casual while asking if he was eating, if he was sleeping, if he was okay. He lied every time, said he was great, said everything was fine, said he missed her, but not to worry. The lies tasted like ash. In August 2023, Carter went to the doctor for a follow-up. The news wasn't good. His liver was failing. Years of hard drinking had caught up. The doctor was blunt. "You need to stop completely. No more alcohol, not one drink. And even then, you're looking at serious health issues down the road. Possible transplant list, cirrhosis. This is as serious as it gets." Carter drove home in a daze. He sat in his truck in the driveway for an hour, engine off, staring at his house. Then he pulled out his wallet and looked through the cards. Behind his driver's license, he found it. Worn and faded, but still readable. Raymond Kowalski, followed by a phone number. Carter stared at it for a long time. Remembered the bar 4 years ago. Remembered Ray's calm eyes and sad smile. Remembered the words, "When that day comes, you call that number." This was that day. Carter dialed. The phone rang 3 times. "Yeah." Ray's voice, older but unmistakable. "This is Carter Bennett. We met at the Rusty Nail in Wilson Creek a few years back. I was an asshole to you." A pause. "I remember. You doing okay, Carter?" "No." The word came out cracked. "No, I'm not okay. Doctor says my liver's failing. My wife left. My daughter barely talks to me. And I'm sitting in my driveway trying to figure out how my life turned into this." "Where are you right now?" "Wilson Creek, my house on Maple Street. Give me 3 hours. I'm in Missoula. I'll come to you." "You don't have to." "Yeah, I do. That's what the card meant. I'll be there by 6. Don't drink. Don't do anything stupid. Just sit tight." Ray hung up. Carter sat in his truck until the sun started to set, then went inside. He made coffee. Paste. Almost opened the bottle of whiskey in the cabinet, but stopped himself. At 6:15, he heard the rumble of a motorcycle pulling up outside. Ray looked older, but not diminished. Still had the gray ponytail, still wore the death's head patch, still moved like someone who'd earned every step. He stood on Carter's porch and waited to be invited in. "Come in," Carter said, quietly. They sat at Carter's kitchen table. Ray accepted coffee, but nothing else. For a long moment, neither spoke. "You called," Ray finally said. "That took courage. Or desperation. Sometimes they're the same thing." Ray studied Carter. "You ready to tell me what's really going on?" "Not the surface stuff, the deep stuff." Carter thought about lying, thought about deflecting, but he was so tired of pretending. "I'm dying. Maybe not today or tomorrow, but soon. And I'm alone. And I'm scared. and I don't know how to fix any of it because I don't know when it all went wrong." "It went wrong when you stopped telling the truth," Ray said. "To yourself, to your wife, to your daughter. You built a whole life on pretending you were fine, and the foundation cracked." "How do you know that?" "Because I did the same thing, for years. Pretended I was tough and didn't need anyone and could handle anything. Lost 2 marriages that way. Lost my daughter that way." Ray's voice roughened. "She was 23. Heroin overdose. I was so busy being a hard ass, being someone who didn't show weakness, that I didn't see she was drowning. Didn't know how to help her even if I had seen it." Carter felt something in his chest crack. "I'm sorry." "Me too. Every day." Ray leaned forward. "But I learned something from losing her. Learned that being tough isn't the same as being strong. Being tough means you don't break. Being strong means you admit when you're breaking and you ask for help anyway." "I don't know how to ask for help." "You just did." "You called me. That's step 1. Ray pulled a folded paper from his vest. "This is a meeting schedule. AA. There's one in Wilson Creek every Tuesday and Thursday. There's one in Missoula every day. You need to go. Not because I'm telling you to, but because you can't do this alone." "I don't want to sit in a circle and talk about my feelings." "Nobody does. But you do it anyway because the alternative is dying alone in this house." Ray's voice was gentle but firm. "Carter, you got a choice. You can keep pretending you're fine until your liver gives out and your daughter gets a call saying her father's dead. Or you can admit you need help, go to meetings, call people when you're struggling, and maybe you get some years back. Real years, not this half-life you're living." Carter's eyes burned. "What if it's too late?" "For your liver? Maybe. But for your relationships? For your daughter? For having a few years where you're actually present and honest? It's not too late for that. Not yet." They talked until midnight. Ray told stories about his own journey to sobriety, 12 years clean after decades of drinking and using. He talked about the meetings and the sponsors, and the hard work of facing what you'd done and who you'd been. He talked about his daughter and how he wished he'd been different, better, more open. "I can't fix what happened with my girl," Ray said, "but I can make sure other fathers don't make my mistakes. That's why I gave you my card that night. Saw something in you. Recognized it because I'd been it." "What did you see?" "A man who was scared and covering it with anger. A man who was mocking strangers because he couldn't face himself." Ray smiled sadly. "A man who was going to hit bottom hard unless someone threw him a rope." Carter went to his first meeting the following Tuesday. He sat in the back of the church basement, arms crossed, ready to hate it. But when people started sharing their stories, the construction worker who'd lost everything, the teacher who'd driven drunk with her kids in the car, the veteran who'd used to forget, Carter heard himself in their words. When it was his turn to introduce himself, he almost said he was fine, just there to observe. But Ray was sitting 3 chairs down, and their eyes met, and Carter remembered what Ray had said about truth. "My name is Carter," he said, "and I'm an alcoholic." The words felt like falling and flying at the same time. Over the next months, Carter went to meetings. He called his sponsor when the cravings hit. He apologized to Paula, not to get her back, but because she deserved to hear it. He called Kelly and told her the truth, that he was sick, that he'd been lying, that he was trying to do better. Kelly cried on the phone, "Dad, I've been so worried." "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I didn't know how to admit I wasn't okay. But I'm telling you now. I'm in meetings. I'm sober. I'm trying. Can I come visit?" "Yeah, baby, I'd like that." Ray became a fixture in Carter's life. Not a friend exactly, but something more important. A witness. Someone who'd seen Carter at his worst and his best, and didn't judge either version. They'd meet for coffee every Sunday, talk about the week, about struggles and victories and the mundane work of staying sober. "You're doing good," Ray said one morning in May. "Real good. Your daughter visit last month?" "Yeah, spent a whole weekend. We talked. Really talked. First time in years." Carter smiled. "She's bringing her boyfriend next month. Wants me to meet him." "That's huge, Carter. That's her trusting you again." "I don't want to mess it up." "Then don't drink. Show up. Be present. That's all you can do." Carter's liver didn't improve. The doctor said the damage was permanent. He'd need a transplant eventually, and his drinking history made him a risky candidate. But he had time. Maybe a few years, maybe more if he stayed sober and followed protocol. Carter decided to make those years count. He started volunteering at the community center, helping teach construction skills to at-risk kids. He reconnected with Mike and his other friends from the Rusty Nail, but this time at coffee shops instead of bars. He worked on his relationship with Paula, who agreed to counseling even though she wasn't ready to come home yet. "I'm proud of you," she said after one session, "for finally being honest. Took me long enough. Better late than never." In October 2024, Ray called Carter. "Got something I want to show you. You free this weekend?" They rode out to a cemetery outside Missoula. Ray led Carter to a grave marked with a simple stone, Jennifer Marie Kowalski, beloved daughter. "I come here every month," Ray said. "Talk to her. Tell her about the people I'm helping, the guys I sponsor, the kids I mentor. Tell her I'm trying to be the father I should have been when she was alive." He looked at Carter. "You're one of those stories. The guy from the bar who called when he hit bottom. The guy who's fighting like hell to be better." Carter's throat tightened. "You think she'd care about some random guy from Montana?" "I think she'd care that her dad learned something from losing her. That he's using that pain to help other people. That's how I honor her memory. By making sure other families don't end up like ours." They stood in silence for a while. Then Carter said, "Thank you for answering when I called, for showing up, for giving a damn when you had no reason to." "I had every reason. You were drowning. I know what that looks like." Ray smiled. "Besides, you gave me something too. Another story to tell Jenny. Another reason to believe change is possible." By December 2024, Carter had been sober 16 months. His health was stable. Kelly had brought her boyfriend for Thanksgiving, and they'd announced their engagement. Paula had started coming to the house for dinner once a week. Life wasn't perfect, but it was real, honest, present. Carter was at a meeting when he got the call. Mike, his voice shaking. "Carter, you need to come to the hospital. It's Ray. He was in an accident. Motorcycle crash on Highway 12. Carter drove to Missoula in the snow, his hands white-knuckled on the steering wheel. At the hospital, he found a group of bikers in the waiting room, all wearing the death's head patch. They recognized him, nodded. One of them, a younger guy named Tony, approached. "You're Carter. Ray's talked about you." "How is he?" Tony's face was grim. "Not good. Truck crossed the center line. Ray tried to avoid it, but he trailed off. Doctors say he's not going to make it. Internal injuries. He's awake right now, but they don't expect him to last the night." Carter felt the floor tilt. "Can I see him?" "He asked for you." "You and his ex-wife. She's in there now." 20 minutes later, a small woman with a gray hair and red eyes came out. She looked at Carter. "Are you Carter Bennett?" "Yes, ma'am." "He wants to talk to you. Don't tire him out. He doesn't have much time." Carter walked into the ICU room. Ray was hooked to machines, his face pale, his breathing labored. But his eyes were clear when they focused on Carter. "Hey," Ray rasped. "You came." "Of course I came." Carter pulled a chair close to the bed. "How you feeling?" "Like I got hit by a truck." "Which I did." Ray managed a small smile. "Funny how it goes. 43 years on a bike, never a serious wreck. Then some guy texting doesn't see the center line, and that's it. Don't talk like that. You're going to be fine." "Carter." Ray's voice was gentle. "I'm dying. We both know it. Got maybe a few hours, so let's not waste them pretending." Carter's eyes filled. "I don't know what to say." "Say you'll keep going. Keep staying sober. Keep showing up for Kelly. Keep being present." Ray reached for Carter's hand. His grip was weak but steady. "You were drowning when you called me." "You're not drowning anymore. That's huge. That's everything." "Because of you." "Because of you. I just threw you a rope. You're the one who grabbed it and pulled yourself out." Ray's breathing hitched. "I need you to do something for me. Anything. When I'm gone, there's going to be a funeral. A lot of people. Brothers from the club, family, people I've sponsored over the years. I want you to speak. Want you to tell them about the night we met, about the phone call, about getting sober, about what's possible when someone gives a damn." "Ray, I can't." "Yes, you can. You're strong enough now, and people need to hear it. Need to know that the asshole mocking bikers in a bar can become the man sitting here crying because he's about to lose someone he cares about. That's the story. That's what matters. I'll do it, Carter whispered. I promise. Ray smiled. Good. Now get out of here. Let me say goodbye to my brothers. But Carter? He squeezed Carter's hand one more time. I'm proud of you. Whatever happens after today, you remember that. Someone was proud of who you became. Carter left the room. He stood in the hallway and cried, while bikers patted his shoulder and told him Ray was good people, the best of them, a man who never turned his back on anyone who needed help. Ray died 3 hours later. Carter was in the waiting room when Tony came out and said it was over. The bikers stood together in silence. Then one by one, they started their bikes in the parking lot. The rumble echoed off the hospital walls, a final salute to a fallen brother. The funeral was the following Saturday at a church in Missoula. Hundreds of people came. Bikers from across the Northwest, men and women wearing the Death's Head patch, but also teachers and counselors, and people Ray had sponsored, people whose lives he'd changed just by showing up. Carter sat near the front with Kelly beside him. She'd driven up from Seattle when he called, hadn't hesitated. Paula was there too, sitting on his other side, her hand in his. When it was time for eulogies, Carter stood. His hands shook as he approached the podium. He looked at the sea of faces, at the closed casket draped with Ray's Death's Head vest, at the photo showing Ray on his bike, smiling. My name is Carter Bennett, he began. His voice cracked. He cleared his throat. 5 years ago, I met Ray at a bar in Wilson Creek, and I was an asshole to him. I mocked him, made fun of his vest, his age, his whole life. I was drunk and mean and trying to prove something to people who didn't care. The room was silent. Ray could have kicked my ass, could have put me in the hospital, could have taught me a lesson the hard way, but he didn't. He gave me a card with his phone number, and he said someday I'd need help, and when that day came, I should call. Carter paused. 4 years later, I called. I was dying. My liver was failing. My wife had left. My daughter barely spoke to me. I was sitting in my truck, holding that card, trying to decide if I wanted to keep living. Kelly was crying. Paula squeezed his hand. Ray drove 3 hours to sit in my kitchen and tell me the truth, that I was drowning, that I needed help, that it wasn't too late to choose different. Carter's voice strengthened. He took me to my first meeting. He sponsored me. He showed up every week, every month, whenever I needed him. He didn't do it because I deserved it. I didn't. He did it because he saw someone drowning and decided to throw them a rope, because that's who Ray was. Carter looked at the casket. Ray told me about his daughter, Jenny, about how losing her taught him to help other people's kids, other people's fathers, other people's families, about how he honored her memory by refusing to let other people drown the way she did. His voice cracked again. I'm sober today because of Ray. My daughter and I have a relationship because of Ray. I'm alive because of Ray. And I'm standing here telling you this because Ray believed stories matter, that admitting you were broken and showing people how you put yourself back together, that's how you help others find their way. He paused, gathering himself. Ray asked me to speak today because he wanted you to know that change is possible, that the worst version of yourself doesn't have to be the final version, that someone giving a damn, someone showing up, someone refusing to give up on you, that can change everything. Carter looked at the bikers in their vests, at the families, at the people wiping their eyes. Ray Kowalski saved my life, and I know I'm not the only one. I see you in this room. The people he sponsored, the people he mentored, the people he helped when nobody else would. We're all here because Ray decided we were worth saving. His voice broke completely, so I'm standing here to say thank you. Thank you for answering the phone. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for believing I could be better when I didn't believe it myself. Thank you for throwing me a rope. Thank you for being patient. Thank you for caring. He looked at the casket one last time. Thank you for everything, Ray. I promise I won't waste it. I promise I'll keep going. I promise I'll help someone else the way you helped me. Carter returned to his seat. Kelly hugged him. Paula kissed his cheek. Around the room, people were nodding, crying, remembering their own stories of how Ray had shown up when they needed him most. After the service, Carter stood with the other pallbearers, all bikers, all Ray's brothers, and carried the casket to the hearse. They rode in formation to the cemetery, 200 motorcycles rolling through Missoula with their engines rumbling like thunder. At the grave, Ray's ex-wife approached Carter. "Thank you for what you said." Ray would have loved it, especially the part about the card and the phone call. That was so him, always playing the long game, always believing people could change. "He saved my life, ma'am." He saved a lot of lives. That's how he dealt with losing Jenny, by making sure other people's kids didn't end up in graves next to hers. She pressed something into Carter's hand. "This is Ray's sponsor coin. 12 years sober. I want you to have it. He'd want you to carry it, to remember." Carter looked at the bronze coin, worn smooth from years of Ray carrying it. "I can't take this." It was his. "And now it's yours. Pass it on someday, to someone you helped the way Ray helped you. That's how it works. That's how his legacy continues." Carter closed his fist around the coin. It was still warm. He stayed sober, day by day, month by month. He went to meetings and sponsored other men who were drowning. He told his story about the night in the bar, and the phone call, and the man who'd shown up when nobody else would. He told it to kids at the community center, to his AA group, to anyone who needed to hear that change was possible. Kelly got married the following spring. Carter walked her down the aisle, sober and present and grateful for every moment. Paula came to the wedding. Afterward, she told him she was proud of him. They were still working on things, taking it slow, but they were working. That was enough. On the first anniversary of Ray's death, Carter rode out to the cemetery. He brought flowers and Ray's sponsor coin. He stood at the grave and talked, the way Ray used to talk to Jenny. "Hey, Ray. It's been a year. I'm still sober, still going to meetings, still helping people when I can. Kelly's married now, happy. She's pregnant, actually. Due in December. A boy. They're naming him Raymond. After you." Carter's voice roughened. "I wish you could meet him. Wish you could see what you made possible. This whole life I get to have because you answered the phone." He set the flowers on the grave. "I'm passing it on, like you asked. Sponsored 2 guys this year, both staying sober, both fighting hard. I tell them about you, about the night you gave me your card, about how you showed up 3 hours later because someone was drowning." Carter touched the headstone. "I won't let it be for nothing. I promise. Your life, your help, your belief that people could change, I'm going to honor that by helping as many people as I can, by being someone who shows up, someone who gives a damn, someone who throws ropes to drowning people." The wind moved through the cemetery, rustling the trees. Carter stood there for a long time, the coin warm in his pocket, Ray's memory alive in his heart. He wasn't drowning anymore. He was standing, he was present, he was alive. And it was all because 5 years ago, in a bar in Wilson Creek, a man he'd mocked had given him a card and said, "When that day comes, you call." Carter had called, Ray had answered, and everything had changed. That was the story Carter would tell for the rest of his life. In meetings, to his grandson, to anyone who needed to hear that hitting bottom wasn't the end, that reaching out wasn't weakness, that accepting help was the bravest thing you could do. And sometimes when Carter was sponsoring someone new, someone desperate and drowning and afraid, he'd pull out Ray's bronze coin. He'd let them hold it, and he'd say, "This belonged to a man who saved my life, who believed I could be better when I didn't believe it myself, who showed up when nobody else would, and now I'm showing up for you, because that's what we do. We throw ropes to drowning people. We show up. We give a damn." Then he'd tell them about the rusty nail, about being an asshole, about the card, about the phone call, about Ray driving 3 hours to sit in a kitchen and tell the truth. He'd tell them that change was possible, that redemption was real, that the worst day of your life didn't have to be the end of your story. And he'd tell them to call him, anytime, day or night, because that's what Ray had done for him. And Carter would be damned if he wasted that gift by keeping it to himself. The coin stayed warm in his pocket. Ray's memory stayed alive in his heart. And Carter Bennett, former asshole, former drunk, former drowning man, kept showing up, kept helping, kept throwing ropes, because someone had to. And Ray had taught him it might as well be him. Years later, when Carter himself was gone, Kelly would find the bronze coin in his belongings. She'd hold it and cry and remember her father, not the broken man from her childhood, but the man he'd become. The man who'd been present at her wedding, who'd held his grandson, who'd stayed sober and shown up and been someone worth remembering. She'd keep the coin. And when her son Raymond was old enough, she'd tell him about his namesake, about the biker who'd answered a phone call and saved a stranger's life, about her father who'd been drowning and found the courage to grab the rope. She'd tell him that legacy wasn't about being perfect. It was about being honest, about admitting when you needed help, about showing up for others the way others had shown up for you. And maybe, someday, young Raymond would pass that coin to someone who was drowning, would tell them the story, would throw them a rope. Because that's how it worked. That's how Ray's memory lived on. That's how one act of grace, one answered phone call, one willingness to help could ripple forward through generations. The coin would stay warm. The story would stay alive. And somewhere, Carter hoped, Ray was smiling, proud of what they'd built together, proud of all the lives they'd saved, proud that a mocking encounter in a bar had become a story about redemption and grace and the wild, improbable hope that change was always, always possible. All it took was someone who gave a damn, someone who showed up, someone who threw a rope to a drowning man and refused to let go. Ray had been that someone. And now, because of him, so was Carter. So were the men Carter sponsored. So were their families and children, and all the lives touched by one biker's refusal to give up on people. The legacy lived on. The rope kept getting thrown. And the world, one saved life at a time, became a little bit kinder, a little bit more forgiving, a little bit more like the world Ray had tried to create, where no one had to drown alone, where help was always just a phone call away, where grace was given freely to anyone brave enough to ask. That was the story. That was what mattered. That was what Carter said at Ray's funeral, and what he kept saying for the rest of his life. And it was enough, more than enough. It was everything.